Thank you so much, Paul. And we're going to have to do something about the energy level in this room because it's feeling a little down. I don't know if it's because I don't know if because Paul said drinks are not here now, they're coming later. I have had the situation where it's been like the end of the day panel, and I would crack a joke about wanting a gin and tonic, and then one shows up. So if anyone's listening. This will be a great panel. And one of the things that I think, and you'll tell us at the end whether it's a good panel, but one of the things that makes for a good panel is if you come away with something that you didn't know before, or on a topic like this, where we're talking about using data clean rooms to enable actionable planning and measurement for brand marketers, if we're able to connect the dots and actually point out why that is, where clean rooms fits into it, and why is it actionable. So we're going to start off with introductions. We're going to go down the line here. And in addition to everyone on the panel sharing who they are and who they work for, I've also asked the folks here if they could share, because we're talking about measurement across screens and platforms, if everyone can share a show or some kind of content that they're currently viewing or just finished that they would love to share with everyone in the room, and make sure you check it out. So we're going to start with Adam down on the end there, and introduce yourself and what are you watching?
All right. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Adam Gitlin, president at Annalect, and I oversee our product and technology teams. And I just finished on Netflix the series Your Honor with Bryan Cranston.
Ooh, that one's a good one. A little scary. Joann.
Sure. Hi, my name's Joann Wolferman. I am at Nielsen, and at Nielsen, I lead our data integrations and identity partnerships. I just finished a blast from the past called Lost. I had been working on that since July, so it's good to have that behind me. And I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. And then now I'm watching Chimp Crazy, which is a ride in and of itself.
And no spoilers on what happens at the end of Lost there.
No, it's so hard to talk about 20 years later, I'll tell you that.
Was it a dream or not? Was it purgatory? Who knows?
And that's not a rewatch, that's a fresh.
Rewatch for me, fresh for my husband. So. Yeah.
Excellent. And Matt.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Matt Devitt. I look after the advertisers and agencies business at Nielsen. So I have 4 kids under 8. So that's where the gray hair is starting to come from. So I watch a lot of Disney Plus, I would say. So I don't know if you've heard of the spin-off of The Lion King. Lion Guard is a big thing for my kids. Obviously, Bluey is on. So a lot of children's streaming is what I'm consuming these days. And then for myself, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm kind of a nerd. I've been watching Ken Burns documentaries. So that's pretty fun.
All right, outstanding. So we have a nice variety there. And moderator's prerogative, I'm just going to tell you what I'm watching as well. I've just asked myself the question, just because I love the show so much, I'm going to share, and it's not an Amazon show. Nobody wants this. Oh, look at the expressions. I knew it. And it's got another Adam in it, you know. So, awesome show. Kristen Bell. Amazing. Check it out, Netflix. All right, let's play it all back. Adam, can you share with us what Annalect does? I'm sure there are people in the room that are familiar with Annalect, but for those who don't, or those that could maybe learn a little bit more, what does Annalect do? And also, when it comes to all things measurement, what are your clients asking you for these days?
Sure. So first, Annalect is a data and technology arm of Omnicom. We are putting all the pieces of the industry together to help make it easier for marketers to more effectively drive their business. There's a lot of fragmentation, a lot of disconnected technologies, and so we have invested substantially in building Omni, which we refer to as our marketing orchestration platform, to help just make all of that more simple and easy to navigate. And we do spend a lot of time on measurement. What we've seen, I'd say, in the past few years, not surprisingly, is there's a lot more volatility with our clients and their businesses. And so clearly there's a lot more scrutiny around the contribution of every dollar and driving performance to the business. And so they're coming to us with lots of questions around how to measure, which in and of itself can mean a lot of different things in terms of measurement based on the business. Some of our clients are looking to get more precise measurement down to online sales that they're driving. Others don't have the ability to actually directly track sales, so they're looking to better understand how the weight that they put in market is overall driving volume to retailers that maybe they're who ultimately the customers. And so there's a lot of different meanings for measurement for a lot of our clients, but one thing that's constant is we're seeing a lot more focus on it because of the volatility in the business.
Mm-hmm. And Matt, from a Nielsen perspective, Nielsen, I think, is synonymous with advertising. And can you share a bit about who Nielsen is for those perhaps who haven't heard of Nielsen? But more than that, listening to what Adam was saying about what some of his clients are asking for, how does Nielsen address some of those needs?
Yeah, so Nielsen is, as many people know, a large global media research company. For the purposes of brands, we start with data. So we're the preeminent media consumption data set in the industry across linear and streaming. That's built on our panel data, which is probably what we're most well known for, but increasingly it's big data or census level data integrations with the media ecosystem. And then for a marketer, we kind of support that media lifecycle end to end. So that's planning, buying or posting or currency, whatever term you want to use in the middle, and then measurement or post-campaign verification and optimization. So we use data, partnerships like that with Annalect to support planning, buying, measurement. And so the Annalect partnership is really exciting because, and we'll talk about it more, I know, with Adam, is we're moving from a world of age gender only, which has been historically the way that we've looked at media consumption, to broader audience data sets. And so taking audiences and taking a lot of the hard work and scalability that an Annalect has created on behalf of marketers and bringing that into the applications of, again, planning, buying, and measurement. And so we're really excited about the prospects of that.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of how you do that, and Joann, for you, when it comes to using data, identity, and also Nielsen has been out in market with Nielsen One, how do all these things come together for you?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. So a couple of things. So Nielsen has been doing the work for the past couple of years to really move, kind of Matt referenced it, from our panel data set into this kind of much broader, bigger data set that is comprised of a lot of different data sources, so big data, panel, as well as other contributions. So that's kind of the new underlay of everything. And now what that enables us to do is kind of do these partnerships with a client or partner like Annalect or others to really bring in really rich either first-party or third-party data now into the Nielsen world. So we've been working on this kind of really seamless connectivity between our clients and our partners and the Nielsen tools that are enabling this kind of planning and measurement and activation that Matt was just talking about.
So digging in a little deeper, so you mentioned big data and first-party data. Could you give some examples or describe what kind of data sets are we talking about that comprise this new ingredient in Nielsen One and the way you operate?
Yeah, sure. So in the underlying data set that I just mentioned, so we do have a lot of sources of big data from connected TV partners that you might be familiar with. So that's a big part of it. But what we're bringing in to connect to that world are those first-party IDs that an Annalect has been working really hard to build out. And so what we're enabling is that really kind of custom measurement or the use of really specific audience and that really rich audience data, in whatever that looks like for a marketer, right? And so whatever is really important on all of that audience segmentation can now be kind of directly integrated. And so it's a very kind of bespoke approach, whereas in the past we have not had such rich kind of bespoke and custom opportunities. And so it's really kind of a choose your own adventure with wherever you'd like the audience to take you. Yeah.
Yeah, choosing your own adventure. It sounds very Lost-like in terms of.
I can't get out of it.
I can hear the noise like as they switch between worlds. So Matt, what was the customer need that is driving this? So bringing in these other data sets, like what were your clients and customers asking for whether they knew the need or maybe they didn't know, but they kind of knew the outcome they wanted. What was driving that?
Well, I don't know if the challenge is a new one, like marketers who are out there. Like, you guys are always thinking about who is your audience, who is your customer that you care about, that you want to reach. I think the challenge is more like, how do we collaborate on the data that represents those audiences in a more meaningful and scalable way? If we look at sort of, like, we've been creating audiences in our industry for years. It just happens that it gets targeted in programmatic, or it's like used in very ad hoc ways. And, the challenge I think we're trying to solve is, how do we take really rich, well-governed audience data, like what Annalect has been doing, and bring it to scale in linear television, addressable television, CTV, social, right? And so how do we get from a sort of a niche world of using audiences in a bunch of different places to actually making it part of the operating model of marketing and the applications that support that? So that's a lot of what we're trying to do, at least with the applications that we go to market with.
So Adam, looking at it from the other side, were your clients coming to you and say, hey, we've got all this great first-party data, I sure wish I could use it with Nielsen, or did they articulate the need in a different way? What does it look like from your side of the equation here?
It's a mix. Clearly, everyone has been in line asking for Nielsen. Clearly, I don't think I could say otherwise right now. But I'd say it's a mix. I think our clients are still figuring out. I mean, we have clients who are in a place of, what does a first-party data strategy look like for us, right? Because they don't have a native consumer touch point by nature of their business. And then we have clients who have been direct-to-consumer since day one and have tremendous amounts of first-party data that they're trying to leverage more. So they're pushing us in a lot of different directions. And I think one area where there's been a lot of, I'd say, interest over the many years has been in the area of, firstly, how can I plan more precisely? And then how can I better measure what I plan? The challenge that we've had historically, which I think Joann, you mentioned, is we've planned based off of broad demographics, right? And so what happens is, before that, you come up with you respond to a strategic brief, you have your strategic personas and your target audiences, but then that needs to translate to these blunt objects of demographics. And then once you plan that, you execute that, you can only measure against those demographics, so it's very difficult to then loop that back and understand, well, how did we reach these strategic audiences that we began with, these personas? And so with Nielsen One, that's what we were setting out to do with his team, was help solve for that. We have a tremendous amount of audience data on our side. Our clients have tremendous amounts of audience data, some of them, as I was saying. So we bring that together, use that to create the strategic personas, then can carry that through to the planning now and show much more relevant plans against those targets, and then measure and deliver the reach that we achieved against those target audiences. So I'd say that's what the game changer is that we're excited about.
So did you want to add something?
I don't want to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Well, maybe this is going to tee it up. And even if it doesn't tee it up, you can say whatever you're going to say anyway. So we're talking about the power of first-party data that your clients can bring into the equation in combination with Nielsen, both panel data and big data. But so far, we haven't uttered the phrase clean room yet. We've talked about first-party data in combination with other data sets. And so, Joann, and maybe this is what you're going to say, or maybe, okay, great, awesome. So where does clean rooms fit into this? Why would a customer, or why would you need this to help facilitate this better analysis?
Yes, great tee up. Thank you. I'm glad I didn't interrupt. All of those kind of fitting the hard work of all of those rich audiences that Adam mentioned, and then kind of being forced to fit it into a predefined age and gender or some other kind of simplified audience segment to measure. That's where we've been trying to benefit, trying to enhance the client and the whole measurement experience. And so what we've done and what we can do in a clean room is really scalable. So everything Adam just mentioned is what we have tried to make as turnkey as possible. Whatever audience, right, a marketer or a brand has in mind, seamlessly is available in Nielsen planning and measurement tools. It's made possible by clean room partners like AWS, who we're working with in the background to set up very, what we call always on, right? Kind of audience connections that are persistent and live and refreshed in a very constant way that the brand doesn't have to worry about at all, right? It's kind of always available. The old world of this was somebody else sitting in the middle, right? Maybe an onboarder, and we're kind of sending files back and forth and paying the tax of waiting for a segment to kind of be translated back into the Nielsen world. And while it works, and there's definitely a time and a place for that, there is also kind of this more scalable approach that the clean room offers, right? We don't have to move any data around. Everybody's data can stay in the same place, and Nielsen can do the heavy lifting of making sure that data set A is integrated with data set B. And so it's much more privacy compliant. It kind of takes out that room for error of manual shipping data files all over the world. So data's in its place, and it's kind of in a very scalable and automated way available for usage. And that is kind of one of the other benefits of this kind of connection.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like there's a lot of data security and governance benefits, a lot of technical benefits. Matt, from a business perspective as well, are there other unlocks here, other types of use cases, other capabilities that are now enabled when you have this kind of setup where data can be analyzed, perhaps larger data sets without moving it around?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, now that you can do it with big data sources at something like a respondent level, and the clean room offers, I think, confidence to all the parties involved, the agency representing the advertiser, the identity providers, the service provider like Nielsen, that the work has been done and that there is full transparency to the operations that are happening in the clean room, right? So that confidence layer is very important, especially for all of our legal friends that are out there who are, watching us as we do these things. But by being able to bring larger data sets in and match at an ID level, all of a sudden the insights for something like strategic audiences becomes more valuable. Because historically, we've done strategic audiences at Nielsen for actually a long time, but it's been on a panel, which a panel is an amazing thing in terms of being a sample that is representative, that you're highly confident. The match rates are amazing. But once you start getting into the world of big data, you start bringing in streaming data sets and social data sets, now we can actually operate in a marketing world where you have an audience and you can understand actual cross-platform consumption. Like, that has been eluding us all. Like, really understanding cross-platform in a meaningful way where there's actual matching happening and representing an audience accurately. So to collaborate, to create something like that requires a technology in many cases like a clean room, because there's just too much at stake for the contributors of those different data sets.
So to make this all real for the folks that are here, could we come up with an example? So how does a bill become a law? So Adam, starting with you, maybe we can just make up a scenario in real time,
Sure.
And then we'll see what happens.
Let's do it. So I'd say, as I was saying, we get the brief and we need to build an audience, let's say. So let's take a CPG client who doesn't have any first-party data. We have a tremendous amount of purchase data in Omni, and so we'll go ahead and create some audiences that range from loyalists to maybe competitive conquesting. We then will take those audiences, and really this would be someone on the account doing this within Omni, and say, great, now I want to push this to Nielsen. That would flow through the pipes, the clean room that we have set up with Nielsen. So that's really helpful, because beforehand we would have to do, as Joann said, an onboarder. So there'd be some additional legal work, and it'd be a one-time thing, and then we'd have to send the data over. And then Nielsen would receive those audiences. I don't know, Joann, is there more you want to say? Or?
Well, in the background, Nielsen has put together an integration, right? So with all of the data that Adam is talking about. But Matt, maybe you can say what the marketer does next.
Well, yeah, so there's a match table that's been created. So the ID spaces, you can think of it as like a big Excel file. You've got a bunch of, anonymized IDs from Annalect, a bunch of anonymized IDs from us, and we've created an always-on match table to connect those IDs together. The audience, the CPG buyer data set that Adam is sending over, we do a big VLOOKUP of those IDs, but in a very highly visible, transparent way. And it's very limited what you can actually do and pull out. And then we have those IDs on our side. So we've done the VLOOKUP, and we can now proceed with bringing that audience data through our planning data workflow. So if you want to render that audience in planning, or you want to bring it into OpenAP or any of the buying systems to do an advanced audience buy, or you bring it into measurement, say it's Nielsen One Ads, then you can render it in Nielsen One Ads. So we've created the pipes and the matches via a clean room so that you can actually just use the applications. It's not supposed to be something where we're burdening and oppressing the marketer. We're trying to create the infrastructure so that you can just use the tools.
And I guess that to just underscore that, it's meant to be used in a way that makes sense to the brand, whether it's the agency that's working with them or what have you. It's like we can kind of understand your language, right? We can understand your ID space. So there's no extra work of trying to make it work through Nielsen lens. We're now completely connected, right? So that we can work together and you don't have to do any additional work.
There's just one last important part, which is at the very end of the campaign, right? The planner will then get to see how they reached that audience specifically, right? It's not how did I reach adults 25 to 34, right? It's how did I reach this segment, this segment, this segment, which is pretty novel in our business.
And I'd just add what's particularly novel is because, again, we've been talking about bringing audiences into tools for a long time, but the scalability of it, being able to use it cross-platform. So audience data matched at scale, now with big data, in a safe way, to actually activate across a media buy instead of, I'm going to take this audience and put it into programmatic, and then I have to use this other thing over here to plan linear. To Adam's point, you can plan your full buy or most of your buy and then actually measure it with that same data set at a greater degree of scale and coverage. And that is, I think, unique.
Yeah, and that is outstanding. And from my perspective, I lead global go-to-market for AWS clean rooms. A clean room is a tool. It's a means to an end. It's something to help our customers do things. And what was just described here and the outcome that you described for your clients, that's the most important outcome, that they get that additional insight, something they couldn't get before. And using these technologies behind the scenes to facilitate is the role we play. We're an enabler. So we have marketers in the room. I always like to end these panels with a call to action, something you can actually take away, think about, do next. So Matt, we'll start with you and we'll work our way down. What's your call to action to the folks in the room here today?
Well, because I think a lot of marketers think a lot about their audiences already, so I'm not going to say necessarily decide who your favorite audience is, but I think look at your audience strategy and really take a look at where is that audience actually being activated upon. And so I use the term activate here very broadly, is that audience being built and actually used cross-media in planning? Is it being used to activate on in a targeting sense where you want it to be at scale? Can you actually measure that same audience across your media buy? Or is it really, really siloed and fragmented? Because a lot of times the breakdown is, this audience is critical for our strategy, but then it kind of breaks down later and you're actually kind of Frankenstein piecing together where that audience is actually being used. So I just think about the execution side would be the call to action.
Yes, I obviously underscore that. I would say absolutely kind of work with your agency to understand exactly what is available for all of those audiences, all of the activation. That has been so much the focus for all of this data, because right now there's this whole kind of new world of kind of finishing the circle with the measurement component. And so really kind of working with agencies to understand that.
Yeah, I was going to say audience strategy also.
Shoot.
Yeah, I'll just underscore that then. So I think that is a pretty big one. We still actually do receive briefs where it starts talking about basic demographics, and I think we, as an industry, still have a lot of room to grow in how we think about audiences from a through a strategic lens, but also then through the media planning and measurement side. And I think just thinking about how do we define an audience strategy, and also how should we be thinking about measurement moving forward when we are able to measure reach against more specific audiences and not just broad demographics. A lot of our clients have different measurement frameworks that they're working with, and those may be built on sort of an older way of looking at this type of data. So thinking about the measurement side there, I'll add that to audience strategy. The measurement side and how to evolve to match what's capable in the market today.
Outstanding. And I'll add one as well, which is increasingly throughout our industry, folks think about some of these challenges, new technologies, and you think in terms of a POC, a proof of concept, what can I do to maybe test out some of these capabilities? But increasingly, there's a new term that we've started to use at AWS that I rather like, which is a POV, a proof of value. So it means find a use case. Yes, we can think strategically, we can think big, but also at the same time in a parallel track, pick off one little use case, one thing that you can do today, that you can do better, that you can apply some of these technologies, and really think about what kind of value you're driving, like what would be an indicator that there was success here, and then give it a try. And you can do those POVs, and you can think big at the same time and have those both going in parallel tracks. Do we have time for questions? How are we on time? We're good for questions. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. So the question is, what are some of the factors when selecting a clean room? And the second part of the question was about multi-vendor, different types of clean rooms. So I'd be curious to hear from your perspective.
So what we've seen, there's sort of been two flavors of clean room technologies in the market. There's the cloud-based clean rooms, so like Amazon and others, where they're giving technology departments pieces, right, to make a clean room. And then there's more like application-based, so Habu or InfoSum. And I'd say right there is a decision point on, I'd say a couple things to consider. One, how core is the clean room to your business as sort of core infrastructure for how you want to operate? And that could be today versus 18 months from now. Right? So to the proof of value concept, if you want to do something sooner than later, is there a shorter path in terms of approvals of new technology solutions? So if you already have AWS Cloud, then you don't need to work through a whole new InfoSec review of a new vendor, right? How much control you want to have over the match itself. When you work with the cloud solutions, you have much more direct access, your team does, right, to the data and to the quality of the match and the ability to do analytics on that data. But then that requires more effort, whereas on the other side, there's a little bit more out-of-the-box functionality oftentimes, but then you're maybe a little bit more constrained about the types of analytics you can do on top of it. So those are a couple of considerations. Oh, in terms of switching, at this point, if the engineers understand the concepts with one of them, they'll be able to translate that, which will save time, but they still do need to build it from the ground up with the cloud providers, because each one is quite different.
When it comes to anonymized data, does it mean that the PII has been pseudonymized or something has happened to the PII first?
So what's generally speaking, both clean rooms, so Joann has a clean room, I have a clean room, we both have the PII in that clean room in its raw text form. And that's what allows us to do the match. We could have it hashed, if it's a list of emails, we can hash the emails and do the match that way. That leaves a little bit less room for nuance on how to match on certain fields. So email is always straightforward. That's going to be a direct match. But name and address is less straightforward. So you want to be able to include some logic there to kind of get, well, Adam just moved, and that address that Joann has is old, right? So there's a little bit more nuance there. So that's another consideration, is just how comfortable the organization is with having various folks have access to PII. There's certain solutions that will, in the space, that will transform the data itself, so that, and are a little bit more of like security platforms as well, that try to have a little bit more protection around that, and that could be another factor in the evaluation.
And I'm curious, Joann, when from a Nielsen perspective, how do you think about, now that we're on the topic of matching these records together, whether it's PII or some other pseudonymous ID? There could be someone from LiveRamp in the audience. So how do you think about matching these data sets?
Yes,
Nielsen?
It's a good question. You asked also about number or size of data, and I think the answer is less about size and more about the privacy benefits of a clean room, right? Because the matching components that Adam just went through, they're really good, right? And so, especially if you have like clear text PII, it's very easy to do a match. And so I think we used to have to really worry about like match integrity. And I think that this type of matching has really helped us get a lot more matches. So when you talk about size of data, I think I won't talk orders of magnitude, but in the past, smaller data sets have been more difficult, and I think we're seeing benefits there. Then you asked about our kind of how we think about different clean rooms. I mean, honestly, we're a measurement provider, and so a lot of our approach is we have to be where the clients are, and so there's always a component of, right, we want to be as interoperable as possible. But we also think about kind of our engineering team is, right, always thinking about kind of the best ways that we can keep our data in one place and still be as interoperable as possible. And so we have, obviously AWS is a longstanding partner of ours, but there is a component of being able to traverse either across clean rooms or have a presence with others, and to make sure that we're not really preventing anything from happening. Yep.
And one thing that's definitely inherent in this conversation here is that business personas and technical personas need to be like locked arm in arm when having these conversations, because the business persona has some kind of business outcome you're trying to drive to, but you're going to need help from your technical personas to prepare your data correctly, to understand where it's housed, how to execute some of these workflows. So it's very important for your needs. And how are we on time now? Do we have time for one more question? No one seems to be stopping us. You can just keep rolling. Okay, we're rolling. Any other questions? Yes, right here. Question is, client adoption, clean rooms over the old way.
I will say it has taken some time for us to get clean room adoption. However, I'd like to see if you agree with this. It has really ramped up recently. Whereas maybe as recently as earlier this year, there was an appetite for it, but not so much speed behind it. Now there's an appetite and there's actual movement. I'm interested to hear if you agree.
No, I think that's right, particularly with our agency clients. So it makes sense, especially for an Annalect who is serving a large array of clients, to have a very scalable way to match audience data, to bring in their own data provider data, to build their own capabilities, and to use clean rooms to support that, because it's a majorly important product for supporting strategic audiences across many clients. So I think this where our clients have a scalable oriented business, it's definitely ramping up. I think advertiser direct or brand clients, it's a bit of a mix. I don't know if I would recommend that every single advertiser does get a clean room. You can work with an Annalect. You can work with your agency in many cases, so that you're focusing more of your time on the strategic audience conversations that Adam mentioned. If you have a huge portfolio of brands and you can benefit from the scale of having an always-on match and can really get the benefit or the proof of value, then there's a real case to be made, and I think that's where we are seeing it ramp up more and more. It's just the size of the enterprise and how scalable that solution can be.
And Adam, you get the last word.
All right. I'd say it's been a little bit slower than we certainly thought it might be to see that transition. But as Joann said, I think we're starting to see it speed up a little bit more. Still not at full velocity. Feels like second, third gear a little bit still. There could be existing contracts with existing onboarders that need to run out. A lot of education still. What we've seen is even the clients who are excited and interested in clean rooms, they have their tech teams have their own roadmap that they need to kind of slide it into. So it's getting there, but yeah, I still feel like there's a lot of room to grow.
All right, outstanding. I think we did okay. Thank you, Adam, Joann, Matt, for your engagement and for being here today. And thank all of you for joining us.
Thank you.
And now over to